Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1692. This watch is available from Pagani Design Global AliExpress store on AliExpress. During the Black Friday sale, the price of this watch will be €107. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the Pagani Design PD-1692 comes in this black cardboard watch box. The watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use this style of cardboard watch box, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only €107. With the watch, one gets this branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. This is the Zulu Strap, which comes with the watch. As you can see, the woven nylon fabric is a good heavy thickness. It's like ballistic nylon, so it's therefore going to last for a good length of time. The Zulu keepers are made from stainless steel, and they are black DLC coated. So stitched either side of the Zulu keepers to prevent them sliding out of position. It's a good quality nylon Zulu strap, plenty of holes in the strap to allow for fine tuning the adjustment, and it's nice to get this included with the watch. This is the plastic tag that comes with the watch. This is the plastic guarantee card, and as usual the reverse isn't filled in. However, I'm pleased to report that the watch is covered by the usual 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. And lastly, this is the owner's instruction manual. Although basic, it does suffice in detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. Clear, concise diagrams, and the instructions are in English. It also details the terms and conditions of the international guarantee. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Pagani Design PD-1692. Firstly, I want to give you the backstory to this watch. Back in February of this year, I had the idea for a Pagani Design Explorer with a Submariner date dial, and I created that watch by modifying a Blyger PA21 Explorer. I modified it with a Pagani Design PD-1661 dial, handset, and also PD-1661 flip-lock clasp. I made a video about this, which I published in February on my channel, and then I emailed Pagani Design the video, and they liked it, although at that point they weren't ready to put it into production in February. So I'm pleased to see the watch finally go into production now, and this is the watch, the PD-1692. So if you want to see my original modified version of it, the prototype, you can search on my channel for modified Pagani Design PD-1661. So with regards to the specifications, 39.7mm case diameter, we have a 49mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 11.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the flip-lock clasp. As you can see, the flip-lock clasp is signed to a high standard with Pagani Design engraved. Beautiful luster to the top side of the flip-lock clasp. As you can see, the solid 316L grade stainless steel has a lovely luster to it. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Now, there is a negative to it. This edge, the end of the flip-lock clasp, is very sharp, and also it has very sharp points. So they need to be better deburred and also better chamfered, so there is room for improvement on the clasp, although it is very aesthetically pleasing. We have a flat sapphire crystal. Now the negative of the sapphire crystal is there is no AR coating on the underside, and if I tilt the piece at an oblique angle in the light, you can see it is highly reflective. There is a lot of glare from the silver Mercedes hands and the silver applied indices. So this piece would really benefit from clear anti-reflective coating, and it's something that collectors would definitely pay more for if it had clear AR coating, and I wish Pagani Design would implement this with the PD-1692 because it really would benefit from AR coating. The dial layout is the classic Submariner date style dial layout, and I really like it. The symmetry is good, the legibility is good, the date complication at 3 is clearly legible, white state wheel with black Arabic numerals. And I really like the contrast between the black text on the dial and the matte white dial. This watch is available in several dial colours, but this matte white version is my personal favourite. I like the contrast of the silver Mercedes hands and the silver applied indices. It's just absolutely beautiful to look at, even though there is a lot of glare and it is highly reflective due to the lack of AR coating. The flat sapphire crystal is very aesthetically pleasing. I like the large lip of the sapphire crystal, which projects above the mirror polished bezel because it catches the light and it adds interest to it. It's just absolutely gorgeous to look at, the edge of the sapphire crystal catching the light. The solid stainless steel bezel is made from 316L grade stainless steel, polished to a flawless mirror polish, and it complements the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks of the case. And Pagani Design deserve full credit for this because the finishing to the head of the piece throughout is excellent. It's the kind of case finishing one would expect to see on a mid-tier piece costing in excess of €500. So to get this in a low-tier piece at only €107 is excellent. Brush satin finishing to the tops of the lugs complements the brush satin finishing to the end links. So they've made the correct decision by having contrasting brush satin finishing on the top of the case with mirror polishing on the flanks to complement the mirror polishing on the bezel. The crown is coin edge finished, mirror polished dome cap to it, embossed with a Pagani Design brand emblem to a high standard. So let's test the crown action. Absolutely silky smooth. Very smooth interface between the internal thread of the solid stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters of water resistance, which is very impressive specification, bearing in mind that this is a low tier piece and it's not a dive watch, it's a daily wear piece. And one would expect 100 meters of water resistance. To get 200 meters is very impressive. In the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up in the Seiko NH35A automatic. Absolute pleasure to manually wind it. In the first click position, it is the quick set date complication position, and if you look closely at the date complication, you'll see that the quick set complication works as one would expect. One thing I like about the NH35A automatic is the quick set has a very satisfying click. One can feel each date click over. So I really like that aspect of it, and the quick set complication works perfectly. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and I have now hacked the movement. If you look closely at the second hand, you can see I have now hacked it. I've stopped it dead, so it is possible to set the time precisely to the second. It's a characteristic of the NH35A automatic. It has a firm resistance to the gearing. I like the friction, I like the solid feeling of it. It's an absolute pleasure, silky smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise to set the time. It's one of my personal favourite movements. It's a good, solid, reliable workhorse movement. Pushing it back in's got a nice positive click and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is outstanding screw down crown execution. Pagani Design deserve full credit for this because it's something they do very well. Their screw down crowns are silky smooth, and really to get 200 meters of hermetic seal at this price point is very strong specification. It's a very well executed screw down crown, silky smooth, and I like the threading. It really is very good. So I'll show you the screw down solid stainless steel case back. As you can see, it's engraved with the specification to a high standard, and it's also beautifully decorated with a design, as you can see. And they deserve full credit for this because it is finished to a very high standard. Bead blasted matte effect contrasts very well with the mirror polished engraving, and also the engraving is done to a very high standard. Brushed concentric satin finishing to the circumference, and the edge of it is mirror polished to flawless standard. Now the thing I really like about it is if you look at the side profile, it's very low profile. And this is very impressive for a 200 meter water resistant screw down case back. Something that Pagani Design did is they changed from using screw down exhibition case backs. For example, in the PD-1691, they used to use a screw down exhibition case back which was glazed with mineral crystal. Now the disadvantage of using an exhibition case back was it only provided 100 meters of water resistance, and it was thick because the mineral crystal needed to be thick enough to withstand 100 meters of pressure without cracking. So they made the decision to change to using solid stainless steel case backs rather than screw down exhibition case backs with mineral crystal. The advantage is that increased the water resistance from 100 meters to 200 meters. Now the other thing they were able to do is they have reduced the thickness. If you look at the profile, this screw down stainless steel case back is lower profile than the exhibition case backs they previously used. So it's got a better level of hermetic seal. It's 200 meters versus 100 meters, but it's also lower profile. Now the positive benefit of that is they have been able to reduce the thickness of their watches down to below 13 millimeters, and the thickness of this PD-1692 is only 11.4 millimeters. That is very impressive for a Seiko NH35A powered piece, because usually automatic pieces are thicker because they have a rotor on the underside of the movement, so they have to be thicker than manual wind and also quartz movements, and the screw down case back needs to have enough clearance for the rotor. So really, to get 11.4 millimeters is very impressive. So I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I have sized the bracelet because the bracelet that comes with this piece, which is oyster style, is long. It will fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist. I have removed one full link and it still fits my 8-inch wrist to perfection. As you know from my previous reviews, I like to size my bracelets loose so I can fit an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp at all times, which is the correct sizing method. So even with one full link removed, it still fits my 8-inch wrist perfectly. Now, they have got the proportions of this piece done to perfection. 39.7mm case diameter perfectly balances the 20mm lug width. Beautiful taper on the bracelet from 20mm at the lugs down to the flip lock clasp. I like the luster of the flip lock clasp, and there's a beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel links in the oyster style bracelet. Nice taper to the 39.7mm head of the piece. The lip of the sapphire crystal projecting above the mirror polished bezel is absolutely beautiful. I just love the way it catches the light. Very eye-catching. So it's a very aesthetically pleasing piece. The comfort level is outstanding. The feel-good factor is outstanding. The lug-to-lug measurement is close to perfection. It's 49mm. Now, as you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist, respectively. So they've got it very close at 49mm. The thing I most like about this piece is the low profile. 11.4mm really is very impressive. Needless to say, it's easily going to slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. I regard anything under 13mm to be optimum, and at 11.4 this really is a very low profile piece, and I think they've got the proportions perfect, so I really like it. It's only 142 grams, so it lacks heft. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider circa 150 grams to be the sweet spot for 40mm pieces. So at 39.7, it's close to that 40mm sweet spot. And 142 grams really does feel weightless. Very well balanced piece. The comfort level of this watch is 10 out of 10. One of the most comfortable watches I've ever worn, and it's very comfortable to wear for 8 to 12 hours per day. So it would be the ideal daily wear piece. As you can see, the interior to the flip lock clasp is finished to a high standard. Matte bead blasted effect to the centre section, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, very well executed. Now, one thing I like about it, in the absence of a glide lock style mechanism, is it has a solid milled stainless steel diver's extension, which is like the Rolex EasyLink extension. It adds 5mm of extension to the clasp. Now, the negative is there is a lot of play in it and extra articulation, as you can see, but however it does snap into the body of the clasp with a good positive click, and it does deploy with a good positive click, so it's not going to accidentally deploy. It is well executed from that perspective. It snaps in and out very well. So it's just a shame they didn't tighten up the play in the pins and also remove that sharp edge and the two sharp points. So these are considerations I want you to bear in mind. Good positive click to it when closing, good positive click to the flip lock. So other than that, it is very well executed. Right, so let's do a loom test and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and it may come as a surprise to you that this doesn't use C3 Luminova. It's not glowing green. They've used blue Luminova. Now, this clearly isn't BGW9 Super Luminova, which has a lighter blue tone, which looks more like Seiko Lumibright or alternatively Rolex Chromalight. So this blue Luminova isn't as strong as BGW9 Super Luminova, and that's a clear cost-cutting measure. But however, one has to be realistic. One has to expect some cost-cutting measures, such as no AR coating and also Luminova rather than BGW9 Super Luminova. The reality is one isn't going to get BGW9 Super Luminova at €107, which is the price point of this piece. But having said that, I would like to see Pagani Design upgrade to either using C3 Super Luminova or alternatively BGW9 Super Luminova, even if that means increasing the price point of the piece by $5 to $10, because collectors would happily pay for stronger, better quality BGW9 Super Luminova. But having said that, it is glowing reasonably brightly, and it's also continuing to glow for a good length of time. So it is better quality Luminova than they usually use. Often they use green C3 Luminova, which is very weak, especially on the hands. It immediately begins to fade and fade fast to nothing. This, in comparison, is glowing for a longer length of time. Now, it's not as bright as BGW9, but it is glowing for a longer period of time than the usual C3 Luminova they use. The other thing I like about it is there is a good colour match between the Mercedes hands and the applied indices. Often Pagani Design watches have a colour mismatch in the loom between the hands and the applied indices, but in this case they have got the colour tone of the loom used on the hands and the indices exactly the same. So I would describe it as acceptable, and it is an improvement over other models I've seen, and they deserve credit for that. Right, so let's discuss the movement used, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. You will all be familiar with this Seiko NH35A Automatic. The NH35A Automatic is made in two plants by Seiko in Malaysia and Japan respectively. The Chinese brands like Pagani Design buy their NH35A automatic movements from Malaysia, and that was the reason for the shortage, because there was a COVID outbreak in Malaysia, which meant there was a shortage of supply of NH35A movements in China, which pushed up the wholesale price per piece to close to the PT5000. So for that reason, many brands such as Pagani Design switched from using the NH35A to using the Miyota 8215. Now the disadvantage of the 8215 is it doesn't have hacking and it is a lower grade of movement. The supply of NH35A in China has now increased, and therefore the wholesale price per piece has dropped, and therefore brands like Pagani Design have now returned to using the NH35A in pieces such as this PD-1692. So I'm pleased to see that. I'm pleased to see them going back to using the NH35A, which has hacking, and it's also a higher grade of movement. So it has 24 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which is used for complications, and the stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so a rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that this movement has been very well regulated, and it's running at +7 seconds per day, which is perfectly acceptable for a low tier price point piece costing only €107. So the NH35A is a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. It's one of my personal favourites, and I think they've made the correct choice by using the NH35A rather than taking the cost-cutting measure and using the Miyota 8215, which is the other alternative. So I like it. It's a good, reliable, solid, accurate movement, and +7 seconds per day is perfectly acceptable. Right, so lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So in the Black Friday sale, the price point of this watch will be €107. So I'm going to base my evaluation upon that price point. Yes, this is good value and it is good quality at €107. The negatives to consider are the lack of AR coating, the weak performance of loom, and there is a lot of play in the bracelet, as I've detailed. The other thing to consider is it has a sharp edge on the end of the flip-lock clasp and also 2 sharp points. So there is room for improvement on the build quality, the quality control, and also the execution, as you can see. But the positives are it uses the Seiko NH35A, it has 200 meters of water resistance, which is very impressive, screw-down crown, screw-down case back, and it's one of the best looking Pagani Design watches they have made. I really like the look of the watch. So although it does have some negatives, it does have some shortcomings, I really like the watch and I think it is the perfect daily wear piece. So on that basis, I am going to recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani Design PD-1692. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.